made, and yes, we approve of all of the things you
Yes.
said.
Okay.
We know we live in a high-tech, innovative community, especially in Chandler, and our goal truly is to make sure that our students are prepared. We're fortunate in Kyrene and Chandler that our students do perform at or above national averages. We do know that our goal is to make sure our students are prepared, and it is about having a partnership. People come and they move to Chandler because of the business that you provide. We want them to live in Chandler as well, and we get calls on a daily basis. They want to know about our school systems, or they've researched and they've chosen to come to Kyrene or Chandler because what we're doing. It is a change. It is more rigorous. We have committed to a substantial amount of training for our teachers. Our teachers need to understand the change that takes place and the change in content. Research will tell you that they need at least 80 hours to really have the change that needs to take place in the classroom. So we have committed starting last year, and we have a really short timeline to make sure that our teachers feel comfortable with the content. But it's also about partnerships, and that's, I think, what I wanted to grab from what you had said, Nora. It is you being aware of what's going on in our schools. And it's also having opportunities for us to know what's going on in your businesses, and hopefully to have the opportunity for our students to be involved, because our instruction will look different than it has in the past.
And building on that, I think there are a couple of key pieces, and I want to reiterate some of what Susan said, and that is remembering that we are moving from a minimum competency model. That's what AIMS was about. What's the minimum necessary, was the example that Susan used, to now a college and career ready level of expectation. And that's why when you saw in the slide about where you fall in AIMS and where college career ready is, it's in the middle of the current exceeds. To be in the exceeds category, and we've been talking about this for at least 2 years, because these standards were adopted by the state 2 years ago. And so in the school districts, we have been working for the last 2 years in the implementation, to full implementation at the beginning of this school year. So this is the world that our kids and our teachers are living in, this idea that you will walk out of 12th grade ready to be not taking any remedial classes in college, or to start a beginning career path without remediation on the part of the employer. And so that's a very different mindset than what was before, because when we talk about minimum competencies, when you look at what it took to meet on some of the AIMS tests, people don't necessarily know, unless you read the 300-page technical manual on AIMS, is that a 60% was considered passing in some of the tests. Well, in our classrooms, we wouldn't accept that as passing, really. So it's kind of understanding this is a very different world, and that all kids, let me say that again, all kids have to meet these new levels. And so whether it is a second language issue, whether it's a student with educational disadvantage, they've moved many times, whatever the circumstance is, that student is also needing to meet these same levels. So we're looking in groups like the Chandler Education Coalition, and I know Tempe has one as well, to where we have said we are reaching out, and folks are reaching in to say we're all responsible for kids' success, and we can't do it alone. And so it is through those partnerships, as Nicolle said, that we are able to do better things, whether we're talking about professional development support. We're working on a project for early literacy with the Chandler Education Coalition to start to grad kids early, to help support folks in their homes, to help kids get a good start, so they are starting behind the game when they're coming to us in kindergarten. So those are some of the key pieces that are already in place, and so we'd like to build on those great partnerships. And again, both Kyrene and Chandler enjoy great relationships with their communities, and I think as a result of that, that's why we're ahead of the game. There are some districts in the state that are just now trying to implement, and I'm very sorry for their students and their teachers to be at this late date starting that. We have, for, as I said, at least 2 years, and really before that, we've looked at how can we substantially change instruction, and that's what Nicolle was just talking about. Professional development isn't for the sake of professional development. As a business owner, if you have a new piece of equipment that comes in, or a new program, or a new model of a procurement process, you have to re-educate your employees. Well, we have 1,000 and they have 2,000 employees that they need to re-educate in how they go about their work. It is a substantive change. It is no longer a sit and get kind of model. We no longer just tell you what you need to learn. We have to help you come to an understanding, and that involves a very different model of instruction. there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of application. Kids need to take what they know, what they're learning in science and social studies and math and language arts, and apply it in a performance. It's no longer a bubble in the test. I mean, there's content knowledge, absolutely. There's no such thing as content-free thinking. But it is the application of that content knowledge through the demonstration, the performance, and the creation of a product that kids will be assessed in their ability to be successful in this field.
So let me just mention that based on what you just heard, here's what I saw. Have you ever been to a summative from one of your kindergartners? Okay, here's what you'll find. Here's what you'll see. You'll see your kindergartners say, well, this is a project. There are 3 of my team members here. We spent this past week studying a problem. We all did these experiments and we recorded the experiments, and this is what we found. That in fact, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work, but according to our research, and the research is a kindergarten word these days, according to research, this did work. And here is what we wrote about it. Now, the writing may be invented writing, and it might have shapes and pictures in it, but they have gone through a process of working together as a team, of articulating and analyzing. The one I'm thinking was about the Hohokam Indians, and the pottery that they made, and whether or not that pottery was going to hold water. And they had done a whole series of science experiments and written about it, and then articulated it. They argued or talked with each other about how they'd come to their conclusions. But you can see that that kind of application of their learning is very different than what they used to do. And if you're a classroom teacher, to be able to put that together means that you're using some skills and taking some time to find data and mechanisms to help kids work through that process. So for a classroom teacher, it's a very different way to come to instruction. ABEC, I want to give you a date. May 31st, we are having a conference, an annual conference. We have a special rate for teams. We are hoping, we actually will have in the room a woman who is a U.S. education manager from GE Corporation Foundation. They have invested in 7 different states in implementation of Common Core, and they have a set of learning about that. Not surprising, one of their key learnings around implementation of Common Core is the importance of a collaborative model, so that people in the room represent exactly, Rick, Councilman, Human, what you all are doing right now in Chandler and elsewhere, in terms of coming together in a collaborative way to move this agenda forward. So GE Foundation will be with us, but we're also looking at bringing in the Austin Chamber of Commerce. Austin Chamber of Commerce has got a project called Austin Partners in Education. And they have, you could go online and see what they do. They have now come together in a very constructive way with their school district to actually create this very deep relationship in terms of support with a whole number of kinds of volunteer opportunities, training opportunities for volunteers to go into the classroom. This issue of reading by 3rd grade is a huge issue for Arizona. Those of you who've got children who learn to read know. Those of us who try to help children learn the language know. You don't accomplish that in a classroom of 15 kids. You accomplish it in a one-to-one relationship with a little kid sitting here looking at a book and figuring out what those letters mean. So if you looked at anything in terms of being a tutor in a 3rd grade, helping kids, making sure that they move on beyond 3rd grade, that's a mechanism that could be easily considered by a chamber as a way to help in a partnership. So I encourage you to come join us at our conference, because we will have collaborative leadership will be kind of the focus of our conversation, but we'll have other opportunities to look at ways that chambers can be actually involved in education. So it's May 31st, and it's at Desert Willow Conference Center.
Where is that?
Pardon me?
Where is that?
Where? It's about 48th Street and Broadway, right near the big baseball field and the buttes. Anything, any other questions you'd like to ask?
Susan, do you think you could talk a little bit about the controversy surrounding Common Core and why people have some misgivings about it?
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. There was a very big conversation yesterday down at the Capitol around Common Core. There are those that believe that the Common Core effort comes out of a conspiracy. That because it comes from a group at the federal level, that and it's not so much the Common Core itself. I think everybody agreed that that standards need to be raised in Arizona. That we need to raise the learning of kids. What there is concern about is the assessment. It's what right now is called PARC, because that comes from the framework comes from a group of experts around the country that have come together, and then that framework has come into Arizona for modification by Arizona educators. But it's the assessment that is of concern, because the opponents say it's the assessment that drives curriculum. So even if local school districts have responsibility, which they do, to create the curriculum, that is the assessment that's going to cause that to be a common curriculum and take local control away from educators. That's the big issue, is local control. Would you agree? Am I framing this right? Yeah, okay. So taking local control away. Now, the fact of the matter is, if you, and I don't know, but if you ask Kyrene, if you ask Tempe, if you ask Chandler Public Schools, Gilbert Public Schools, what their curriculum is how you deliver the instruction. How much of it is from internet, how much is what kind of content is in the books, which books are they, what kind of other strategies they use. I wager that none of them are the same. I wager that they are all different, because their school boards and their local teachers have said, we've done a review of this curriculum. And parents, thank you. And parents have a big say in that. We've done a curriculum night. We've got all the books spread out here on this table. We've gone through as educators and said this is the one that fit our needs. That decision making is local, but there is concern that it will be taken away. So just to further let you know,